Welcome to Witchpolice Radio. One of the things that, if you're a regular listener to the show for the past couple of years, you might remember a feature I did a few years ago called Quick Hits. And it was basically just a way to have a lot of I called them micro interviews. They're about 10-minute conversations with a bunch of different artists on each episode. And in a number of cases, it's worked out that people who were on Quick Hits episodes have kind of I guess graduated might be the word to being on a full episode of the podcast. And that's what we have here today. At least one of the guests here today. I was initially introduced to via the Quick Hits format a couple of years back. So it's cool. It's always cool to see, like, someone I talked to back then just to do a quick thing is now doing something that is, I mean, everyone's worth talking to in a longer form, but you know what I mean? It's something that's more there's more to talk about now. So I think that there are two of you here, but let's just start with, I guess you're both known quantities on the show, but we'll start with Glenn, and you can sort of explain who you are, what you do, and then we'll go to Wyatt next.
Of course. So my name is Glenn Radley. I'm the songwriter and principal kind of creative force behind Gladly. And we're here to talk about my band and our upcoming album. And Wyatt is my drummer, go.
Yeah, I'm Wyatt. I'm the resident thing hitter of the group and also the resident balloon blower.
Nice.
We often have balloons at the shows, and that is always my job, is
Is
to
there
blow
a
up all the balloons.
Is there a reason? Do you have like some kind of enhanced lung capacity or something, or
Well,
what's
my dad is a clown,
Oh,
so
seriously? Okay.
legitimately, Floyd the clown, shout out. Yeah, he blows up all sorts of balloons, and I've learned from the best, so I've got all the accolades to be the balloon blower.
It's in your blood. That's awesome.
Exactly.
So, for people who aren't familiar with Gladly, what is this project? Because I think when we talked last time and when it was first starting out, it seemed like it was sort of a solo thing, and now obviously it has grown. You've done a number of shows and everything with a band and a full sort of it's turned into a full project. So, what's the trajectory, I guess, from this being something that you wanted to do? Just in terms of writing your own songs, getting your own songs out there, to now this full blown thing that it is today.
I would say that Gladly's all about sarcastic, grungy pop songs. And if I had to to put a slogan on it, the one I've settled on recently is an attention span prevention plan. And I want to, there's a number of underpinning philosophies that are a varying level of jaded, but also scientific, one of which being the rate at which the body falls down means that the optimal speed to pogo, and therefore, and I'm talking the dance here, I'm not literally talking pogo sticks, the jumping up and down, like, in an arena rock kind of format is optimal in the 110 to 120 BPM range. So I'm really, really, really working on specifically songs in that tempo range, as well as things that people can not only, catchily sing along to, but unfortunately are cursed for the rest of their life to not forget. That's kind of the targets.
At this point, I have no clue what I even asked you as a question because that was. But I like the detail on the beats per minute and stuff. That's very cool. The funny thing is when we first did the interview back in 2021 or whenever it was, that was when my show first started getting shown on TV as well. On Shaw Cable Access, started playing random episodes of my show, and someone saw the episode that you were on, Glenn, and messaged me and said, "I've never heard of your show before. Who was that person on your show? Are they real or are they a Muppet?" And
yeah, I showed that to Wyatt today. I showed the message you sent me of that strong reaction of that denim vested narcissist who seems like a cartoon character. Yes. So I took that to heart, and I figured I should upgrade from denim to essentially what is a love seat as a jacket.
I see that.
Yeah. Which is the OG, when I did my first photo shoot, I had this as the jacket, and I'm still committed to it because I think it pairs well with the eye burning yellow. But yeah, so yes, we are in more of there's more thinginess, more substance to where we're at now. We have a number of songs out, and we're just trying to build up momentum, and in pursuit of that goal, we have both played at and are continuing it to apply to some, camp out kind of music festivals on a lower tier and regional tier, like local and regional, being like Western Canada specifically. So one thing, this is like still in the ether, totally unconfirmed, not even like hinted at being something that will happen. But we applied to a festival in BC that I played at previously with Apollo Suns that I'm really hoping we get. That being the Kispiox Valley Music Festival, and that would be like an example of a festival out of the province that we're trying to get into. But yeah, more provincial festivals as well are targets.
Well, hopefully you've just manifested that into existence now. Now that you've mentioned it on a podcast, it's gonna come true. The reason I brought up that email that I got is because in your description of the pogoing and the beats and everything, there's that quirkiness to what you're doing. That, I mean, obviously pop and grunge, I think we talked about this before too, are very kind of they seem like they should be at odds with each other, right? But obviously there's plenty of examples of how that's worked out in the past. But there definitely seems to be a sense of fun about what you're doing, just sort of throughout. I mean, from the balloons to the graphic design to everything about it. Is that important to this project, to have that kind of lightheartedness?
Yeah, and I think that the thing that is at the core of that has been communicated to me by people who like the band, and how that makes me feel is friends of mine who like the band have said that seeing me sincerely not, can I swear?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So seeing me sincerely not give a fuck makes other people feel comfortable in their weird. And I think that, I personally feel two things. Number one, people should take themselves less seriously. And number two, I think it would benefit everyone in the Winnipeg local music scene if we were cattier and more abrasive to one another so that we could get more interesting press. I think that it's actually more funny from a media perspective to have, whatchamacallit, like feuds. I would love to see a tabloid-like feud that's unbelievably blown out of proportion between notable bands. And even if it's fake, even if it's for PR, I want less sincere, more vapid feuds between artists. That's just silliness, and that's what I want more tonally from mainstream bands in Winnipeg.
Well, I feel like it's incumbent upon you to start that, right? I mean, this is your idea. You need to pick a band and declare some kind of a feud with them.
Yeah, I mean, like I have like nuanced nemesis relationships here and there. There only one or two. You can't have that many nemesis, otherwise it waters the brand down.
Sure. Well, to completely switch topics, you mentioned your previous role with Apollo Suns, and if I'm not mistaken, you were the drummer, right?
Yeah, for 5 years, and I'm the drummer on the full-length album.
So how does this, I mean, for Wyatt, how does this work for you then? Knowing that sort of the band leader and the mastermind behind this project is also a drummer. Does that make it, is there any awkwardness there with because I feel like, having someone who plays the same instrument as sort of the face and voice of the band, is there anything like any tension there at all? Or are you cool to just do whatever?
No tension at all. It just makes my job so easy because it's like I don't usually play in this style.
Sure, yeah.
And so I don't purport to be like I know pop drums better than it. Like Glenn has written the perfect parts. Nothing needs to be changed. So I just play exactly what Glenn wrote, and then Glenn is nice enough to me in rehearsals that he doesn't just like tear me apart for how I'm playing them. But I think I figured out how to play them, well enough, and then I'm just kind of looking to Glenn to make sure that I'm not screwing anything up. It's nice in this band that my challenges are focusing on like not overplaying and being tasteful and really just focusing on time and locking in. So yeah, there isn't any tension. I'm never trying to well, actually every once in a while I try and throw in one little blast beat in a song and then I get the growl from Glenn. But most of the time there's no tension. I play the parts and it's easy. Glenn even brings the cymbals and the drums for me, which is great because he's pretty particular about the sounds that he wants. So he provides everything. I don't even have to do my own load in. It's like the easiest gig ever, and it's great hang. So I love it.
How did you even get involved in this? Because like you said, this is not the style you're known for. I mean, you've been on the show a couple times with Hopscotch Battle Scars, and which is like, night and day sonically between the two bands. So is this just like you were hanging out and realized you could play this, or was there an audition process? Like, how did you get involved?
Yeah, pretty well. Just Glenn and I, we're drummer buds, and we talk drum nerd stuff. And
we're co-workers too. We're co-workers at School of Rock too.
That's also true.
That helps, I guess.
That's
Yeah,
I think maybe later, but yeah, we're co-workers at School of Rock. So yeah, we just know each other, and there was a different drummer for Gladly at one point for one show, and then I think something switched there, and a spot opened up, and
Well, he joined Apollo Suns. He joined Apollo. Let's get this cattiness going, man.
There's a band to
No,
fight with Apollo Suns. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
no,
That's
I'm not here to actually salt the earth or cause any blood feuds or whatever. I was just, in a very practical sense, I quit that band, and my drummer at the time, Tim Iskierski, joined that band. So it's like we high-fived, so to speak, like in different directions.
Yeah.
I needed a drummer. And okay, so I like to think about varying metrics of music existing either on a fader, a knob, or a spectrum. It's like how much of this property is in this style of music. And one of those properties, I think, is, super defining is the jamminess or non-jamminess of a style. Now, Apollo Suns, the jamminess level, pretty high. I would say that it's like 40% written stuff, and then a good healthy 50 to 60% where there's real improvising and people trying to take risks, yada, yada, yada. And I feel as though with Gladly, the percentage is actually more like 80 to 90% song and then 10 to 20% maximum improvising period. But one of my skits, and it's not really a skit, it's more of a hack. One of my hacks live is to point at one of my bandmates in a lull, a dead air moment between songs, and I'll say soundscape, D major, go, and then I'll proceed to tune while they make like kind of an ambient kind of, soundscape with a varying instruments over one chord. And that just kills dead air. And I like those kinds of things. I hate talking. I don't hate banter per se, but it can be done well in a slick way or in a casual, effortless way, totally not choreographed. But honestly, I'd rather just there be 16 2.5-minute songs in a set if I can do that.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know what you mean. I've definitely played in bands before where someone has to stop the tune, usually me, and it's like it's painful just sitting there when no one else is saying anything. Like I was in a band. This is like more than a decade ago now, but I was singing and playing guitar, and there was only 3 of us, and I had to stop and tune, and it was taking way longer than usual, and no one was saying anything. And there's photos of it, and then on my face, you can just see like the pain of like, someone please do something to make this move faster. But yeah, no, I get it. So, you have new recordings coming out. Obviously, that's why we're here today. What can you tell me about the record that you've made?
Okay, so I want to be very clear in my communication about where we're at, what this quote unquote fundraiser, no, not quote unquote, it is a fundraiser, what that's all about. I don't want to misrepresent anything, so I'm going to be very clear with.
Right, I shouldn't get ahead of myself on the go with the fundraiser. What's it all about?
Okay, so the current plan at the end of March is to, while Micah Ehrenberg of The Secret Beach is in Winnipeg, record a single, which would be the 4th of probably 10 or 11 songs for this album. The current releases are going to be on the album. Okay. So that will be released ahead of the album, either after the album release or in and around that time, more than likely. And then the album fundraiser itself, which is a couple of things. It's a show. It's a show May 9th at the Times Changed High and Lonesome with Wonder and Mason Melly's band. They're both really good. Have you ever talked to Wonder Micah Braun?
I haven't. I've heard them, but I haven't had them on the show.
One of my favorite local bands, period, because of they have a nice blend of hookiness, but also great Beach Boys-y harmonies, but also a little harder rock than the Beach Boys would normally go. Anyway, and Mason Melly's kind of like a psychedelic kind of Americana, kind of blue-eyed soul vocally here and there. I've played in his band a couple of times last summer and went on a short tour with him as well. Oh, cool. But they are the opening bands, and the show itself is at the Times. Now, separate but in support of and in tandem with that is a GoFundMe. The GoFundMe will be linked on a QR for the postering run I'm about to go do. The QR will go to the GoFundMe and the ticket link both. Okay. So the GoFundMe specifically is not a pre-order campaign. It is specifically raising money towards the recording costs of the album. The tiers of donations are related to a variety of custom merch items that we'll be making. When I say custom, I'll explain that a little bit more in a moment from now.
Sure.
But specifically, the hot ticket item is my partner, Sage Wednesday, whose ceramics Instagram is Dirt Forms. They will be making a mold of a very generic, mass-produced looking diner cylinder mug. Diner cylinder mug, and they're going to put the Gladly text around the cylinder of the mug, and we're going to make Gladly mugs, and that'll be like a $50 donation tier. But below that, a $30 donation tier is like a t-shirt and a sticker. Below that, for $20 is a tote, and then you can scale up from there, putting that all into a huge package of up to like 3 shirts, a tote, and a mug, a sticker, and also potentially like a lesson co-write, something like that with me. I will do personally as the top tier thing.
So even though it's not a pre-order, there's still benefit to doing it. You still get some shit. Yeah.
It's a merch sale with extra steps, and the custom thing is what I want to get to. And this is something I'm making sure is okay with John Scholes. But have you been to the Times Change Club before?
Not in a while, but yeah, we've been many times. Yeah.
You know how in the back where the pool table is, they have a trailer and it's kind of like a tiki bar vibe?
Yep.
So the goal here, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine, is I have these screens here. These aren't the screens, but just I make my own t-shirts with Sage's art. And what they're going to do is post up in that trailer and create a bring your own shirt printing station with single art from the current releases, in addition to the one we sell, which is just the pillar of Gladly's. So and we're also like the t-shirts, you can pick yellow or pink text or design on gray, black, or a pink shirt. I think we're gonna go with, because nobody wears yellow. Nobody really wears yellow, actually.
Well, except for your band, I guess, right? It's
yeah. So the yellows aren't selling well, so we're pivoting.
Right on. So I mean, I'm not going to ask you to like give out the GoFundMe link here because those things are like this long, but I'll link it in the show notes. But what's the I mean, if people are here, maybe someone's hearing about this band for the first time on the show, and they want to find out more. What's the best way to hear what you have out now? I mean, assuming someone's listening at the time this podcast comes out.
Yep. So you can look up Gladly, just the word, on Spotify. All our songs are there. Apple Music, all the streaming platforms were there. On Instagram, we are at Gladly Music. We just put out a live video through the Fairy Ring video, I believe, is the members of Slow Spirit, their video and endeavors. I did a solo acoustic performance, and that was quote unquote the launch of my YouTube channel, man. So now I have a branded Gladly YouTube with that out. So we're on YouTube streaming platforms, on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us there. Yeah.
Cool. And is this going to be, I mean, I don't know if you know this yet, if you figured this out yet, but is it going to be a physical release or just digital, or do you have plans for that going forward?
So I do in the future absolutely want to make a physical, preferably vinyl release. The realities of that, I was talking to Ed from Apollo. We're still buds, and we chat here and there.
The feud hasn't started yet. Yeah.
No, that's 2025. Okay, so like, for example, they printed 1,000 vinyl at $650 a unit, so it's like $6.5 grand, and that's a pretty serious investment.
Sure.
And I do want to make that investment, but I feel like everything is in phases. And in terms of album cycle phases, I've been in pre-pro for about 10 years, and now we have everything figured out, and we want to, like, the creative aspect is done. It's more just about recording all of the ideas that we've decided on, or I've decided on, yada, yada. So that's the phase we're in now. Phase 2 is the album is recorded, and we can release it online to some extent. And I feel at that phase, And I'm curious what your thoughts on this are in general, because I was talking with my friend, and ersatz what does ersatz mean? I don't want to misuse that word. Anyway, my friend Scott, who manages me here and there, and helps me do some sessions and is organizing co-writes for me, we were talking about the planning and budgeting and thoughts about this album. And the physical release is, of course, important to so many fans, and I think that there's something really impactful about really having a copy of the thing, and liner notes, and a lyric thing to pull out. I love all that as a fan. So anyhow, I was talking to Scott, and and I think that bang for buck, if I want to accelerate my trajectory towards a physical release through better opportunities, better festival booking rates, yada, yada, if I want those things, I need to leverage much, 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 much better internet stream numbers, yada, yada, all of that stuff. So I feel as though phase 2 is probably going to be dumping into marketing, maybe through Signal Noise, which is David Schellenberg and Jen Dirkson's company locally. I haven't committed that. I haven't spoken to them about it. So I'm just saying they seem like a good option. They do a lot of great marketing. But I want to use that as phase 2. And phase 3 is touring and physical release specifically. So I don't know. What do you think about where the world is at in terms of physical release and the arc of all of that? What do you see out there?
I'm the wrong guy to ask.
Yeah.
I listen exclusively to tapes, records, and CDs.
Yeah.
I never stopped. I never got into MP3s. I never had an MP3 player or an iPod. I don't have any music on my phone. I only listen to podcasts on my phone. All of my music listening is done on my stereo right over there, but you can't see. I still have all my tapes from the 90s, like, from when I was a teenager and stuff. They just I never rebought these albums because I already have them, right? So I'm not representative of the average music listener, and I understand that. But I mean, it does seem like streaming is the way to go. Just to build up the numbers anyway these days, because I don't think there are as many people who still have tape decks as I wish there were. But I find someone like, ask my daughter or something. Like, I'm way too old for that.
That's fair.
And set my ways. Yeah.
But the thing is like, it's I was talking to Scott as well, and he's like, there are plenty of horrible articles detailing times bands have overpromised, overextended, and then they did a fundraiser and they raised money, but where's the album? All of these kind of things. So I am just very, very specifically trying to avoid a situation in which I overpromise and underdeliver. I'm trying to veer towards the opposite. I want to really just say what is currently happening and not, create something for something to be disappointed in later. So I'm just trying to be very clear in the way I communicate about that.
Well, that's fair. So the good thing about this being a podcast is, someone could hear it the day it comes out, and they can hop right onto the GoFundMe, hopefully, and help you out. But they could also hear it like a year from now, and who knows where you are in that sort of stage of different cycles by then. So what's the best way to keep track of what Gladly's up to online, as far as, potential upcoming shows, music releases, singles, albums in the future?
For sure, I would say our Instagram is the most consistently communicative thing. I try to post everything that's important to Facebook too, but that's just a wasteland. I appreciate all the engagement I get across all my platforms, but let's be real. The iteration of these kinds of things is so micro generational that you're talking about age ranges of people within 5 or 10 years, specifically being Facebook, and then it's like a hard cutoff for anyone who's 18 and under. No one cares. No one cares at all about it. So I don't know. I think that clinging to ephemeral things like online and streams as the only metric can be equally as toxic. Well, maybe no. I want to be very careful with my wording. I think that extremism in either direction is not the approach that I would like to take. I want to, for fans like yourself, I want you to have a thing, because having a thing is cool. And then to kind of pull it back to the fundraiser, that's why I want to have a specific thing. You get a thing. It's not just, hey, can we have your money? And maybe you'll get an album. It's like, hey, I want to give you things that show you that I'm committed as the maker of the things that you may like, that I want you to have something to come away with it from. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Awesome.